Raindrop, drip, drop top, top smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Cooking up, open the pork.
Hello everyone, my name is Tiffany and welcome to my channel, Foxey Sunrise. So today I got the idea of sharing a little bit about where my inspiration came from for this up and coming pick a card reading for this week. I have a tapestry in the back I thought would protect me from the sun, but it looks like a cool flag, so hopefully that's not distracting. Normally I have some music in the background to help my mind focus a little bit, but depending on how this comes out, I may add it in the background. It really just depends. But the next pick a card reading is going to be about our divine masculine energy. I have an inner goddess, what your inner goddess wants you to know, pick a card reading, and that will pair really well with this up and coming divine masculine pick a card reading. And what's so interesting about that is I actually had a conversation with a friend a couple days ago about how we felt very rooted in our feminine energies, in our dreams and our thoughts, ideas, idealism, the idea of a person, place, or thing. And we're both very creative people, but as far as being very rooted in a masculine way, it's been sort of a wrestle for me personally with that energy. And Bronte, if you're listening, please comment. So yeah, Bronte and I were talking about how we feel about the masculine energy. And for me growing up, especially as a smaller chested female, and also being athletic my whole life, I've always felt sort of in line with the masculine energy. Like I've always felt like a more masculine built, masculine bodied female. Not in the strong sense of the energy of masculinity, but definitely in the sense that I haven't always felt the sexiest. And so for the past few years, I've been really focusing on my feminine side, my feminine nature, and the divine feminine. And that's a journey I'm sure every cisgendered, straight woman who identifies, not necessarily straight, but a woman who identifies as a woman or divine feminine being has that point in time where they're trying to discover what sexy means to them, what it means to be beautiful. And so looking back on pictures of myself in short shorts and crop tops and low cut things, not because I wanted to wear it and I was comfortable, but because I thought that that's what guys liked. And also the curiosity of other women and wanting to still be feminine and being attracted to other women. I haven't exactly explored that, but it's been in the forefront and the background of my thought process throughout the years of puberty and such. So yeah, going through puberty and being a woman and trying to identify where I land, when you're not the, say, Kim Kardashian of the world, for lack of a better example. So, yeah, Bronte and I are really trying to nail down our masculine energy to be able to build the businesses, the personality, and sturdy ego and identity. And so through that process, a lot is being broken down. And so for me personally, I've noticed that while going through this recalibration of my masculine energy and also my lower chakras as well, being confident, being self-aware, being grounded, being able to practically and responsibly use my sexual energy, not for manipulation, but for creation. So those are, those three chakras, the gist of the three chakras. But really trying to reevaluate what that is. And so a couple days ago, her and I, over the phone, because she's not, living where I am and, quarantine, I guess. But over the phone, we did some card pulls to see what comes out along the lines and the advice and conversation of our masculine energy. And this was an idea for a pick a card that I sat on for a while. And that's what I normally do with certain video ideas. I either don't do them at all. But, even though I choose not to do them because of, say, a lack of grounding or feeling confident in the idea, eventually there's an intuitive push that happens, which leads me to the next point, which is today, I want to lead into the discussion of the current transits. I'm not going to talk about all of them, but in the last couple of card pulls, I recently got an astrological oracle deck, which has been really cool because immediately when I got it, I was shuffling out my placements as well as the current collective placements. So it's getting kind of windy out here. So Mars has been coming up for me, and it's perfect alignment to be really trying to hone in and understand my masculine side and not be afraid of it or worried about intimidating someone by moving through that. And also my relationship with the masculine energy throughout my life. And so authority figures, parents, and things like that. So, and my mom, the female figure in my life, she is an Aries rising, and she is a Capricorn sun and moon. So it's funny that I bring that up because those are the signs that I'm going to be discussing today in the video. So Bronte and I, right on time, which is so funny to think that there's moments where I feel I need to keep up with transits because I'm so into astrology and I want that to be a part of my life and a part of what I use as a tool to serve whoever comes into this Foxey Sunrise community, because it's healed me in ways that are really personal and hard to describe. But I want to give a new perspective and flavor to divining, to divination tools not really worrying about too much of the future. I'm more of someone who likes to use divination tools to understand the past, ancestral roots, as well as just introspection. So I digress. But the two main signs that I'm going to be talking about are Aries and Capricorn. So today, September 9th, I almost forgot what month it was, Aries is going direct in Mars and Chiron. Chiron is, I believe, an asteroid, is the wounded healer. And Mars, which is a personal planet, meaning it's closer to us, so it has a bigger influence on us, depending on the modality that you use, Vedic or Western. I'm using Western. You may or may not really worry about Chiron, but Chiron and Aries are going to be in retrograde, squaring off Capricorn. And Capricorn is the sign that Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto are in currently. And depending on your rising sign, and again, if you're using tropical, sidereal, whole sign, equal, Placidus, it will depend on that will show you where this energy is influencing you, as far as, you know, topics of life, areas of life. So Aries is the individual. It is raw, masculine energy. And with planets going in retrograde, I notice for me personally, I don't mind them. Like, Mercury retrograde has never really bothered me. Like, I'm aware of it, but it could be because I'm a mercurial sun sign. That could be why. But retrogrades have always been nourishing for me. And when we think of the word retrograde, it sounds a lot like retrospect. So for me, with this Mars and Aries energy, I've noticed that I have joined a couple of women's groups since this past June. And one thing that I can say is that even though we're in groups, it's very hard to kind of keep up and maintain a circle. It's a lot of responsibility to do that, but I think that it definitely has something to do with quarantine, as well as what this individual healing has really uncovered and uprooted for me and the collective. So Chiron is the wounded healer. And for me with Aries, and also I identify as more divine feminine than masculine, as a softer, more sensitive identification that I am. You know, I know people out there are non-binary, but I'm sure there is at least an identification that you resonate with more. And for me, it is ironically the feminine as of late, and that can always change. But I think this Chiron and Aries in retrograde is really honing in on the wounds that I have around being a leader, my creative expression, the inner child, the wounds surrounding the inner child, versus the squaring off, which is when there's sort of a tension, the squaring off of the Capricorn planets. Now, Capricorn, I like to describe as the baby boomer, the grandpa or grandmother. Now, it is an earth sign, so it is feminine energy, so I'm going to say grandma just as an example. And this can show up in one way as slowing down the Mars energy, the masculine energy, which can sometimes be, in this expression, immature, toxic, unavailable emotionally, not because of a lack thereof emotions, but just moving so fast and wanting to attack a target without really examining the so I got stopped for canes, but anyways, so this squaring off of Chiron and the Capricorn planets, I feel can bring up a lot of memories around authority, because Capricorn does represent institutions, structure. I was raised for the first 12 years of my life in Catholic school, so just things like that, rules, authority, standards, requirements, what you must do. So in one angle, this transit can bring up wounds around that, and also creative expression, as well as the way that you use your creative energy or sexual energy. And so earlier I said that Aries represents the raw masculine energy, and how my friend and I were trying to really understand what that meant for us. And so in society, the way it's influenced me, especially as a Black woman who is not voluptuous, sort of an anomaly, but in media and the people who are running media, not to say that all men are this way, but the brainwashing and the conditioning of media and the entertainment of toxic masculine ideals and images, I feel is going to begin to break down in the collective consciousness. And so for me, even though I'm sort of a loner, being able to be in these groups and talk to other people and understand how they're feeling without them really having the knowledge of occult sciences, pseudosciences, or occult tools, it's still so refreshing to understand and know and witness how this breakdown may occur in different peoples and in different sectors of life. And so I feel that for me personally, I can't speak for Bronte, but for me personally, and the way that it falls in my chart, I'm having to now re-identify and break down, decondition and recondition, deconstruct and reconstruct what the masculine meant for me. And so in this way can mean you don't like the same people that you used to like, you aren't sexually attracted, the same things that used to turn you on don't turn you on anymore. And with Aries being the first sign and the child and the raw masculine energy, and then Capricorn being the wise woman, the last of the earth signs. Slow is the earth sign. Structured is the earth sign. The earth sign, and they aren't all the same, because Virgo is also an anomaly. But I can speak on Capricorn and say Capricorn is a sign that doesn't take any shortcuts. And if you mess something up, if you mess up that math problem, we're going to keep doing more math problems that are similar to it, so we can understand the structure of it, and not just how to get the answer, but how we got the answer, so that we can continue to get the right answer the next time, and we don't have to go back and relearn, which can be the sort of archetype of Aries. And from what I've studied with Aries is very hard on itself. Aries is very competitive, which again, that masculinity, breaking down the masculinity, the old paradigm of the masculinity of, I'm thinking of Instagram. And one of the notes that I wrote down was letting go of the instant gratification. And so realigning with who I am and what I like has been very difficult, and I'm still in that process at this point in time. And so realizing that it's easy to get instant gratification for thirst traps, right? As a woman, and if we're talking about toxic masculinity, if you there's a debate I'd say it's very debatable to understand what body positivity is and what's the difference between body positivity and a thirst trap. And also looking into the psychology of why you feel that posting a picture of your ass is body positivity. Who's it body positivity for? And why can't that body positivity be internalized so that you know your ass looks good, whether it's posted on Instagram or not? And that's just one conversation that has gone on in my mind when it comes to social media. And social media has a wonderful place, but it can be toxic, and it can contain and continue what did I mean by that? It can entertain and continue to entertain, maybe that's what I meant. This idea of instant gratification. If I am someone who feels sexy, but I want to show a different type of sexy, I might not get as many likes as the girl who's posting a picture of her ass. For those, again, that Mars and Aries instant gratification. But I might want to post something that is sexy in a more artistic way, that is more practically sexy. Capricorn can seem boring and dry and not as fun and as lively as, say, the fiery Aries energy, but it lasts longer. Aries in bed versus Capricorn in bed. Completely different energies. Being able to also allow yourself to trust the foundation of the long-term gain versus the short-term, instant gratification, the instant satisfaction of that bad boy, or I'm really telling on myself right now, but I wrote, the thirst traps are going extinct. They're getting old. I went on a social media cleanse back in 2017, I want to say. I can't remember, but it was a good year, and it's still kind of difficult for me to get back on social media, even though I want to share my content. And that's another thing I think aligns with the Mars and Aries retrograde, is the Mars and Aries retrograde can be humbling for some who have really taken advantage of what the toxic masculinity and what the immature masculine energy and authoritative bossy leadership has brought them. And so now having to go backwards and relearn those things. And it could be really nourishing for others in that now, it's kind of scary, but now we're going back and understanding where say the Capricorn authority took away from our Martian Aries authority in childhood. So where did that fear of standing up and speaking up and being the authentic leader that you are, where did that fear stem from? Did it come from these institutions? And how can we also look back on those institutions and see how they have nourished and built us? Because even though I have had some resentments towards certain baby boomer ideals or certain, memories of being in a strict institution like Catholicism, there are a lot of gifts from it as well. And so this kind of reminds me of a conversation I had with a guy friend of mine of really integrating both sides of really listening to the wise soul of the baby boomer and understanding that there are some truths to that advice and not completely saying to hell with it. So, for example, say, my mom, when I was in high school, would say things like, oh, the only thing open past 2 a.m. are legs and bars. And to hear that as a teenager, it's like, oh, are you serious? Like, what does that even mean? That's so harsh, that's so judgmental, for an example. But as you get older, and I'm not that old, but as you get older and you become more open to the rigidity, the rules, the regulations of, say, your stricter, more reserved, structured parent. Not everybody has that gift. I've seen it as a gift now, but before it was kind of like, damn, like, I can't fucking be me. But looking back on those things, you kind of understand what that Capricorn advice really was meant to tell you, and getting the nuggets of wisdom out of those things versus completely brushing it off and doing what you want to do right in that moment, which is the childishness, the childlikeness of the fire sign Aries and Mars. So, let's see. So yes, being in these different groups of women and really seeing how there are periods of time where I notice that there are expectations that can be held in groups, but ultimately at this point in time, there is an emphasis on being fiercely independent, but in a way that nourishes you, in a way that has a sturdier foundation, in a way that isn't based off of the old beliefs and paradigms of, say, the toxic masculinity, which is going in retrograde and rethinking itself, as well as the toxic conditioning and the toxic old beliefs, the ancient beliefs, and I guess not ancient, but the outdated beliefs of the institutions that we have all been through and been conditioned by, which is all the Capricorn crap going in retrograde. So I like to say because I am only really speaking from intuitive messages from my own experience. So I see this as a re-examining of the ego, which Aries, and I would say all fire signs, are a good, clear, more pure representation of what the ego is. Leo, Sagittarius, and Aries. And so Mars ruling our action, and these are all archetypal ideas based off of mythology, in case this is all new information for you. So this is intuitive, but it's also things that I've read and watched and learned. So Mars being the god of war, Mars in astrology being our sexual drive, our energy, what gets us up out of bed. And so re-examining what the ego wants and how the ego is formed based off of our inner child, which I was taking some notes. I don't know if any of you have heard of Molly McCord. My teacher introduced me to her content recently, and it is so awesome. And it's so, she explains things so well, and I'm going to link some of her information down below, so you guys can look at all of that, and it really helped me organize my thoughts for this video. So really re-examining our foundations and how they were built. And quarantine 2020 for me has been intensely spiritual, in the sense that I'm relearning who I am. And all of these phrases in the spiritual community, be yourself, and just positive psychology, realign with who you are. You've always known who you are. I mean, with all that being said, it's hard to really grasp it without experiencing it. And even saying it now, like, I'm relearning who I am, it sounds so woo-woo, but it's and even the way that it's said, I feel, is in this very like sweet, alluring sort of way, which I went down this hole of New Age turned Christianity videos, and I relate to some level in the idealization of some New Age beliefs. But I think one thing that is sticking out in my mind right now is to understand that the things that people explain and whatever you're learning, even books from doctors, Jordan Peterson, all these people should still be questioned. And that's another interesting thing that's coming up to me with the Aries and Capricorn conversation. I imagine Aries as like a little child and Capricorn as like the older wise parent or the grandparent that's watching after this child and explaining to them that you may question authority, but I have more years on you. Now that is true on one aspect, in the humbling aspect of this transit, but to also still learn from authority and also question it, because one thing that we can learn from Aries, if it was still moving forward, is that that's exactly what it does. Aries is a pioneer. It knows what it wants based on its just pure action and thinking later. And so this transit, I'm spitting out a lot of different ideas and angles of this because I wrote down notes, but I didn't really realize that more would be coming up into the forefront. But re-examining the ego and the masculine energy and how it was built, and me understanding, I kind of went off track. I do that a lot. Re-understanding what my identity is, because Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, and it's like the start of the fool's journey. If you're into tarot, the fool's journey is that initial spark of inspiration when the sperm meets the egg. Before anything happens, before a body is created, the sperm meets the egg. And that's how I see Aries energy. That's how I see the full energy. And so sometimes that can mean speaking up while speaking over someone, speaking over your authority figure. So again, I'm getting this image of the child speaking out of turn, and Capricorn saying, hey, and humbling that child, telling them, you know nothing, child, you know nothing. Go back and relearn who you are. And so me in this journey of relearning my ego and discovering that who I am has always been within me, and just I was speaking on the sort of illusory happy pill or fix all idea of the New Age, and it's not that at all. It is not that at all. And being in these other groups with other people, I've realized that it is not that at all. It's not love and light. It's not just love and light. And rediscovering yourself means there's a death that happens. So Pluto, since we're speaking on death, Pluto in Capricorn is retrograde right now. And Pluto is the planet of death and rebirth. In Vedic astrology, they don't really study the outer planets. Although I feel like there's still a potency in just really blending the archetype of the planets, all of them, and identifying them within the real world environment. So Pluto and Capricorn, to me, in my personal life, the way it falls on my chart, has broken down my beliefs, my mind, the structure of what it was, and my friendships. There's hardly, like, I mean, quarantine is one thing, but before quarantine, I noticed that it was starting to become more and more difficult to go to the same bars that I used to hang out with the same people, to even have conversations that aren't fulfilling. And going out in public nowadays is a little bit more awkward. Every time I leave the house, I feel like something weird happens and I get so upset with myself, but it is a part of the journey. And in one of the videos Molly McCord released about the divine feminine, she has a playlist on twin flames, and really understanding that the twin flame union starts within, and it might not, say worst case scenario, twin flames isn't a real thing at all. The best case scenario is learning about it and understanding how the twin flame union of the divine masculine in its pure form and the divine feminine in its pure form can have a union within a person and make a person purely authentic and shine its God light that we have inherited from the Most High, if that's something that you believe in. But to be able to step into that authentic ego, we must first re-examine it and tear it down. So I wish I was a little bit more organized in this talk, but the feminine and the masculine, the Capricorn and Aries energies, are both stepping back. Even though there is this, say, rise of the feminine, it is a rise, I will say, of confidence. The old feminine, the Eve, is now dying off with the Adam. And a new Adam is being formed, and Lilith is reviving. I've noticed in certain conversations with girlfriends that Lilith, the archetype of Lilith, has been really potent in the collective consciousness. And definitely debate this, because collective consciousness is kind of a, blanketed statement. But it is interesting to discuss these ideas with women and understand that there are women who are really, me specifically, and I'll go back to I specifically as a woman have really been trying to understand my throat chakra and speaking, explaining things clearly and being confident in what I say, which that confidence comes from a healthy divine masculine. So I want to go back and discuss the toxic masculinity that Bronte and I had a conversation about briefly. So the toxic masculinity growing up and the influence it had on me going through puberty and all those things is the thirst traps is an example, I feel, of the toxic masculine getting what he wants. So the thirst traps, I wish I had the ability to pinpoint where that came from, and I'm sure there were always thirst traps before Instagram, but the thirst trap seems to be more for the eye of the man and the consumer, more for the eye of instant gratification of all of the likes. Because say a picture like this, may not get as much attention, like I said earlier, as all of these, I almost wanted to stand up and make the pose, but the kind of like side leg pose where your waist looks tinier than your butt and you're really trying hard to stick your leg out You know what I'm saying? Those aren't for women. Those are not for women. And I'm sure men have their thirst traps too. I've seen them. And they deserve their thirst traps, because we talk about women and how the woman's body is more easily sexualized and has more of a leeway than the male body. So, I think men should have their thirst traps. But yeah, so the next point. So I said examining the wounds around being a leader and authoritative, and not being fearful of being that woman who is bossy, which is still a negative archetype of the Mars and Aries energy of being bossy, domineering, bulldozing your way or no way, or you're just destroying everything if you don't get your way. That is what we are letting go of, as well as letting go of what we were told was sexy, what we were told turns us on. So this kind of goes with how we're using our sexual energy. Are we using it practically to create? Are we using it responsibly, in a way that isn't manipulative to get what we want, isn't a way to control other people and their energy, to entangle with them and take their power away, or in a more empowering stance, to give your power away willingly through having sex? And it's not necessarily about having sex too fast or too soon, because taking our power back, it's empowering to know that, again, this could be a Capricorn standard squaring off with the Aries, Mars and Aries. So we're taking back our sexual energy and telling those institutions as women, you know, this is one angle of it, that, hey, we can do what the men do, and it doesn't make us I know YouTube has restrictions on cursing, so it doesn't make us the Mary Magdalene, doesn't make us the prostitute, it doesn't make us, because the woman, if we're getting into the divine feminine energy of the virgin and the whore, the Eve and the Lilith archetype that is within everyone. And so breaking down also the institutionalized idea of what is okay sexually and what isn't okay. And so to be the devil's advocate of the thirst trap argument, what if for you owning your power is a big, huge example is the WAP video by Cardi B and Meg Thee Stallion. A lot of people had so much to say about it, and I was trying to avoid that video like the plague, but I saw it. I saw it and I thought it was a piece of art. I did. I wanted to actually make a video on some of the imagery in it, which I guess I can speak on a little bit now. So I think I want to say Cardi B, she's either an Aries rising with a Libra sun or vice versa. But anyways, we have this super hypersexual energy in this music video. If you haven't seen it, I think it's art. Art is art is art is art. So for me, I thought there are so many different ways that you can look at it, and to say that it was shameful could be true, but to say that it was empowering for a lot of women of all races is also very, very true. And so the way that she raps, both of them, Meg Thee Stallion, if you've ever heard her song Savage, love that song, love that song. There are a couple lyrics in the chorus where it sounds like she's calling herself names, but I feel like it's almost empowering herself in owning those names that people may call her. It's I'm a savage, ratchet, bougie, classy, nasty, I can't. I don't really remember it off the top of my head. But these are connotations that could be seen negatively. And if we really look at, and these are just some of my interests, but if you're ever interested in looking at the history of the matriarchy versus the patriarchy, and the witch trials, which broke my heart, like, oh my gosh, it's just horrible, horrifying, the things that have happened to women throughout history. And so if we want to look at this song, if we want to look at these representations in our media of women, let's cut them some slack. I mean, we gotta look at it from all angles, from different angles. And so in that song, Savage specifically, I can see her taking back these words that could be insults and owning them and making them like a what and what and what. I'm nasty, I'm this, I'm that, you know? So at a base level, owning the whore as well as the virgin. And so maybe in media, the whore is definitely sensationalized, and we can see it in Instagram, all over Instagram. Instagram makes me want to hurl. All of it does. But there's a purpose to it, there is, and it's not all bad. And so we can see the representation, the Aries and Mars, the sexual, masculine energy. And when we see Mars and Aries going retrograde, I also think of Scorpio too, which is also traditionally ruled by Mars. It's the night ruler of Mars, which is the feminine ruler of Mars. And right now I'm reading The Art of Seduction. So Aries, Mars Aries is like the war. How do men win a fight? Traditionally, barbarically. If we're just thinking of like olden days, when Cleopatra was still alive, Cleopatra wasn't fighting wars. They protected their women. They cherished their women back then. They weren't doing the grunt work. How women won wars is intellectually, through their finesse, through flirting, through their words, through seduction. And so we see a little bit of both Martian qualities in the media, which debatably, arguably, could be totally the spawn of Satan on our youth. But also we can look at it as, for example, the WAP video. If anyone has ever noticed the constant tongue out, Miley Cyrus has done it, Meg Thee Stallion and Cardi B do it. I may like insert a picture if I can figure out the editing for that. If I do, like, kudos to me, because I'm learning video editing as I'm growing this channel, learning video editing as well as public speaking. But I digress. I don't know if anyone else has made that connection to Kali Ma, but I really hope I figure it out. But Kali Ma and Cardi B and Meg Thee Stallion, with the symbolism of the tongue out, and also the ferocity, the feminine rising, the I'm taking your balls and I'm wearing them type of energy. I hope that makes sense. That I have a dick that they just call a clitoris type of energy. So I had this correlation that came to mind a few weeks back, like, oh my freaking gosh, like, this could be the Kali energy that everyone is so afraid of. Everyone is like, oh, this WAP video is destroying femininity and da 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 da, and that could be true. That could be true. But what does Kali Ma do? She destroys the ego. Whoa. Mars in retrograde, Mars and Aries retrograde, destroying the ego, destroying what's sexy, destroying what what sexuality means in the confines of what religion has told us, what society has told us, what these well-made entities have told us what sex is and what that means. And so again, I want to point to Chiron in Aries going retrograde, and kind of like throw in the idea that this could also mean re-identifying, reconstructing our sex drive, what's sexy to us, what taking back our thirst trap. It's not for the men, it's not for the women, it's for us. And not being afraid of being the bad guy in that. Aries, and again, I want to allude to and reconnect back to my fear of being a leader. We need soft-spoken women like me, and I haven't always been like that. I mean, in my childhood, I was loud. I was never like that. So it's more unusual for me to be soft-spoken. So we need exaggerated figures like Meg, like Cardi B, like Nicki Minaj, powerful women who maybe, and this is not about the music industry or anything like that, but just the representation, how we can use it to our benefit. We need representations of strong, empowering women like this to light a fire within us, because those women are very in touch with their lower masculine chakra energy. They're talking about money. They're talking about how this guy is chasing after them. I think Meg the Stallion has a verse. She's like, I don't worry about him if I've already had him. I don't know about y'all, but worrying about people who aren't worried about us is a lower feminine trait, and that could be sexist of me to say, so I'm going to say it could be the lower masculine energy as well. Aries loves shiny new objects. It loves a challenge. So Aries, the toxic masculine and the toxic feminine, could desire and put their energy towards things that aren't aligned with them, and they don't realize that because they're more concerned with the fact that they can't have it. They want something that they can't have, and that used to be sexy. The challenge was sexy. So this challenge is now being directed internally. We're looking at the wounds surrounding our childhood, our inner child. We're looking at the wounds surrounding our creativity. Fire energy, the Wands energy in tarot is also associated with spirituality. And again, this depends on where this falls in your chart. So say you have Aries transiting your second house, I don't know, could be re-examining how you spend your money, not spending it so impulsively, and maybe viewing money as a spiritual entity, an entity that can be attracted to. And the Mars energy really honing in on its target, and not spreading itself out and spreading itself thin, but zoning in like its night sister ruler Scorpio, Mars and Scorpio, the internalized Scorpio energy. So using that intensity for yourself, uplifting yourself, and that's just from the perspective of, I'd say, divine feminine energy, which I identify with. So reimagining the masculine energy, upgrading from the toxic masculinity. And if anyone has been on a femininity journey and has seen the surge of feminine videos, feminine channels that have come out, a lot of them are talking about asking for more. Ashira, star goddess, she talks about dusties and pick-me girls. Karina Lude is sharing a channel for women internationally to raise their standards. Hypergamy. If you're not into hypergamy, I still see a surge of women trying to show their younger you know, little sisters out there. Everyone is your sister or brother at the end of the day. You guys are my sisters, brothers. You guys are my family. Really giving women who may not have had a sister, which I did not have, and my mother is more masculine, and I have a dad who is also intellectual and masculine. So having these women, these role models, one, stepping into their power with that divine feminine rising energy, the Mars and Aries stepping back in a sense. Now, I'm saying a lot of different things. I'm just speaking on different ideas and the way that energies can sort of play out. But the Mars and Aries going retrograde, I can see that as a masculine stepping back and re-examining itself, recalibrating itself, and becoming the divine masculine that it is, the pure masculine that realizes that this world would be nothing without a woman, and that a woman deserves to raise her standards. And if there's an issue with that, there's an issue with you. Because if women decide to watch these femininity videos, to hold back their sexual energy with the Aries and Mars, you know, in retrograde, and seeing themselves as sexy, being turned on by themselves, and understanding the goddess, the God that the one true creator, the Most High, made them to be, and asking for more and not hanging around the toxic masculine dusties that the femininity channels are asking us to ignore. And that might make a few men mad. That might make a sector of men who don't want to apply themselves upset. But if women are going to ask for more and apply themselves, these femininity channels talk about taking care of your skin, investing in your skin and your looks, which kind of makes me think of Aries, in the sense that Aries, you know, is very sexual and impulsive. And so when impulsive sexual acts happen, it can be because most of the time, you know, there are like outliers, but most of the time in my situation, if I'm speaking on just myself, impulsive sexual acts happen because of superficial things, because of, oh my gosh, she's, you know, we think of Aries, we think of a muscular person, an athletic, you know, person with a natural fit build. And so, gosh, there's so much to say. Identifying with that aspect of Aries, but embodying that in a woman, to take care of yourself and your body, to be the hottest, sexiest, finest wine version of yourself, and and being here and not lowering yourself, but expecting this person to meet you where you are. So this is what Capricorn represents for us. Capricorn excludes a lot of people. Most earth signs, I would debatably say that earth signs have standards. They are particular about certain things. Virgo is nitpicky because, you know, it's, you know, shadow side for perfectionism, but wanting the best. And Capricorn asks us to do that. It asks the child in us that wants to rush, that wants instant gratification, that wants the brownie now but doesn't want to eat their vegetables. It asks us for more. It asks us to floss twice a day, which I started doing recently. Even though, you know, you don't want to do that, cavities form. And so then you have to go back and get your cavities filled. Capricorn doesn't want us to do that. The divine, wise, feminine woman, the Capricorn energy, does not want us to do that. It wants us to build a sturdy foundation wherever Aries may fall, wherever Capricorn may fall, but in general with masculine and feminine energies overall. And we have both within us. And so asking for more, taking care of our bodies, our skin, our hair, and not because we want to be the baddest thirst trap on Instagram, but because it is time for us to elevate, to be kings and queens. We no longer need to worry about, so one note that I put was square to Capricorn, asking Aries to consider the long-term gain versus the unworthy quickie. Grandpa is talking to the child. That was the imagery that I got. And this is about the maturation of the child, which Molly McCord talks about in her forecast video, which I'll also link down below. Another thing that came up to mind was frustration, impatience, and learning to take things slow with intentional steps. Oh my God, I'm laughing because I'm thinking of first house men or Aries men that I know of that, and you know, this could be stereotypical, but I'm thinking of how the Aries energy doesn't like foreplay. It doesn't care about the chicken marinating. It wants the chicken now. It wants the chicken now, if you know what I'm saying. But Capricorn needs foreplay. It needs to be marinated. And so again, I go back to these femininity talks, these femininity videos. Women asking for more, men asking for more, all of us asking for more, for foreplay, because it's important, for preparation, for a sturdier foundation, because those things are now important. And I feel that I'm jumping over a hurdle just by making this video because I didn't want to. Well, actually, that's a lie. I was inspired to make this video today because of Molly McCord, and had I just kind of let it kind of flow into the wind, I wouldn't be further along this stepping into my power. And it's a constant showing up. It's a constant showing up, which makes me think of Capricorn as well. Showing up for the self when it's early in the morning and when you don't feel like doing that. So let's see. One thing that Molly, I think I mentioned this already, one thing that Molly mentioned was the ego analysis. She has a couple videos about ego death, which I think is sort of what has been going on with me and probably a lot of people throughout quarantine, is the ego death of, hey, I don't get along with the same people that I used to. And actually, in fact, I never really got along with them. Actually, I don't know if I was even being authentic in any of those interactions. So I don't know if, you know, on some level I can get along with the same people or go to the same places. I don't even think I like wine, and I've been drinking wine for 5 years, you know, things like that. Breaking all of those things down, looking inward, and wanting to be seen versus being your biggest cheerleader and facing that energy inward to push yourself forward. So back to the this has gotten really long. Back to the like instant gratification, that's not going to be happening per se. So we're deconditioning the masculine energy and what that means. So, you know, Tiffany doesn't care about thirst traps anymore. She wants to feel classically, infinitely sexy, being, you know, how Marilyn Monroe was sexy in this classic, very simple way. Okay, so finding new healthy ways to work through the energy and letting go of control at the same time, surrendering to the feminine. So Aries can have a lot of anxious energy, and with this being retrograde, I see this as like jiu-jitsu or some kind of like martial art. So like really a meditative honing in on this energy that could be pent up and anxious. I'm feeling really itchy. I think I'm getting bit out here. So I'm going to see if I can speed this up a little bit. So competitive nature, intense, hates to lose or be last, which can be where Aries can be very hard on itself. So you may not get the instant gratification that you may have gotten from being the fake you. It may be harder and scarier to hone in on the authentic you, and you may not get, people may not like it initially. It may be a sort of a change. It's not what everybody else is doing. So sometimes having a lot of likes may more so prove that you're following along with the conditioning versus not having a lot of likes or followers, which may mean like, hey, I'm an acquired taste. I'm exclusive, which is what Capricorn represents, which is what the earth signs represents. Capricorn is exclusive. It's not for everybody. Its energy is not for everybody, and the earth signs are more introverted energies. Same as the water signs, which now that I'm talking on camera, will probably continue on with my elemental series. But the feminine signs are exclusive. They are introverted, and introverted people save their energy for the ones who deserve it, for the ones they feel like are worthy of their energy being shared with. And so, even though Aries is fun and everyone wants to hang out with the fire sign, with the Aries, sorry, I think my whole body is like tingling. It's not as exclusive. There's something that's sexier about being exclusive. And there's something more sacred about being exclusive. So again, I said, proving to others versus the self. So the toxic masculine energy, the Aries energy, that primal energy wants to be brash and wants to be like, hey, look at me, look what I can do. And again, going back to deconditioning that part of the brain, the part that wants to be right. And we can even go back to being in school, and how in school I was kind of seen as a troublemaker because I would talk a lot, sometimes talk over the teacher. Sometimes I just kind of spoke really fast and I knew the answer before everybody else. There's a conditioning in that like, no, that's not okay. You shouldn't raise your hand as much. You shouldn't talk as much. And so that could be an aspect of the Aries that wants to be right, but in a way that's not in its full power. And so this could appear in many different ways, but proving to you that you're good at what you do. And it's no longer about competition. It's no longer about, likes, or the power hungriness. It's the power hungry is coming from an internal wanting the power hungry ness is coming from wanting to have power over yourself and not others, because the conditioning, the institutions, the Capricorn energy that has cloaked us and smothered us and made us feel so resentful to the baby boomer generation, to the generation that told us no. We're wanting to say yes to what we want to do, but the institutions that have made us feel weak and then resulted in people who want power because their power was taken away so long ago. And again, Mars and Aries retrograde. This could be a look in the inner child, which has been so potent for me, so potent for me. So hating to lose or being last. No longer will we need to compete with anyone for being the good guy, the sexiest one, the baddest, B word. All of that is so fleeting. And that's another thing with Aries, is with it moving so fast and being a little bit superficial, and burning out, skipping over foreplay, which debatably could be the funnest part. It can make the next step better, but all of that is so fleeting. Quickies are fleeting. The one night stand, those fleeting things, trading those things and taking the nourishing parts of Aries. If you are the softer energy person, taking the nourishing parts of Aries and owning who you are, listening to some Meg Thee Stallion and Cardi B to get fired up, or, you know, toning it down and leaning on the side of the Capricorn energy and finding structure. Now, I think all of us will find medicine from all of it in our own formula and potions of what, you know, dosage we need of each archetype and how it's working in our lives. So asking, who are we really? What do you like? What actually turns you on? Instead of faking your orgasms. We aren't doing that anymore. Okay? We're what are our strengths and weaknesses, and building the sturdiest foundation off of those things. We are no longer faking our orgasms. We are no longer having fleeting bad sex with the sexy bad boy who is terrible in bed. Those things are fleeting. The club hookup, the tender is fleeting. Tender is fleeting. Oh God. I never did the tender thing. It honestly terrifies me. But anyways, so lastly, divine masculine is taking the armor off. So for example, for me, what I thought was masculine was being unemotional, was not crying, was being, you know, really rigid and, you know, unfilling. So the divine masculine in all levels and the collective is taking the armor off and becoming infinitely stronger from the inside, whilst also softening, but like a soft strength, you know. And the feminine energy is becoming egoically stronger. So rebuilding and restructuring the ego, embodying that Lilith, that Cardi B, that Kali Ma energy of destroying what the ego was and rebuilding it so much stronger so that it is soft but fixed but sturdy, like the Capricorn foundation. And it's going to take time because, you know, it just does take time. And I realized, like, even though the deprogramming seems like a forever process, eventually you have to move on from that deprogramming and integrate all that you've learned. And by integrating, this means, which I never really understood what that meant, integrating is replacing that hole, that gap, and filling it with something new, with a new belief, which again takes so much time. But the brain can still be malleable, and we are forever children. So children are malleable beings, and we can also be malleable beings if we choose to be, and let go of the stubbornness of things having to be a certain way. So building a new foundation for the feminine to be egoically stronger in her identity and her integrity, saying no when she means it in all aspects of life, especially sexually, especially when it comes to her sexual energy, and honing in on it and not wasting it on I don't know. So rebuilding the foundation of worth and courage. That's a big thing for me. So having a conversation with the immature masculine, Aries and Mars, and the stoic divine feminine, Capricorn. So I feel like in all of us, this conversation could be it's very unique for all of us. And so I hear like the Capricorn energies saying, you deserve better. And, you know, the Aries energy is like, okay, let's come out and play. It's time to relax. Let's, you know, loosen up. Let's create. Let's enjoy. So, you know, it's different for everyone. And that is just my, you know, my inner child versus my inner parent aspect, which could be another dynamic that's having a conversation of archetypes in the landscape of who you are, the inner child with the inner parent, the childish masculine bad boy with the baddie entrepreneur feminine, the new feminine. So reprogramming and examining the actions connected to the wounds of the childhood and the inner child, and rebuilding new beliefs and patterns, which Capricorn is all about that. The Capricorn Cancer axis is the childhood, ancestral patterns, generational patterns, things like that. So within this transit, we are rebuilding every aspect of who we are, and so much is breaking down. And it's so refreshing to have this conversation with myself ultimately and sharing it with you. And so I don't know what the title of this video will be, but be on the lookout for the pick a card reading, the Divine Masculine check-in pick a card reading, and I will link below the Divine Feminine pick a card reading, and I'll probably do a couple more check-ins. That's kind of what this channel is going to be about, is really checking in with the energy. I may lean into predictive astrology and transits and things like that. It depends on how I grow, how the channel grows. But right now I'm just honing in on readings that are nourishing and readings that are more shadowy. Shadowy yet illuminating. So I hope this brought up some things for you, and I'm sure when I rewatch this I will have many epiphanies from this as well. But yes, stay safe out there. Happy Virgo season, and be gentle with yourself, love yourself, and ultimately share yourself. Have a great, wonderful season.